And my name is Thelma Van. So I am a UX designer and a managing consultant for Excella. Our primary focus is on federal clients. So currently I am working at a federal client. I've been working with our data analytics team for about 2 years. And working specifically with machine learning, and then more recently on our AI incubator. Recently, we've started to roll out an AI product management uh, framework in order to help teams actually develop ethical and be thinking about all of these memorandums that are coming, not just about the technology, but also the human side as well. Okay, so what we're going to cover today is what I am calling a 4-part workshop, and it includes 4 tools for actually identifying pain points, mapping AI solutions to those pain points, and then actually signaling ethical concerns early. So versus a lot of teams are going in with a sort of proof of concept to see if the technology works. But within this workshop, we really think about like, what are we actually solving? And then what are the early ethical concerns we should be thinking about? I always like to start with failure, right? Because that's where our place of growth is. 70 to 85% of AI projects fail. And common reasons for those failures really evolve around unclear objectives, poor integration with business processes, poor data quality is like a big one, and then lack of skilled professionals or personnel. And to me, when I look at this list, 3 of them really are on the business side and have nothing really to do with technology. So unclear objectives, right? That's something the business can really take and hopefully shape better. When we think about poor integration with existing business processes, an idea might be very cool, and then comes into user adoption and it's not adopted, or it doesn't quite fit into a business process. And we're going to go through how human-centered design can also help with that. So the AI product development framework really is around, first, starting with number 1, actual human-centered use cases. And this is identifying pain points as well as using human-centered design to actually get to the root of the problem. The second part of that includes opportunity evaluation, where it's not just about understanding pain points, but we're assessing fitness and ethical considerations for AI solutions early on. Exploration.
Perfect.
Exploration is really about validating the technical and ethical feasibility. So this is where you see things like proof of concept, right? A lot of times people, again, are focused on, does the technology work? Can it do what we want it to do? But part of that exploration and feasibility also needs to be, can we actually ethically deploy this as well? Refinement is about building additional features based on feedback. So hopefully you have humans in the loop, right? Also, not as just in the technology and use, but also in the testing as well. And then finally, if you're lucky enough to be part of that 15%, you get to launch. All right, so the human-centered workshop includes 4 parts. Pain point discovery, experience mapping, AI solution mapping, and then ethical evaluation. So if you're like me, I generally love, if I'm watching YouTube videos on DIYs, I want to know like, what's the end product first? Like, what does it actually look like what I'm going to build, right? To make sure it's like worth my time going through all of these rigorous steps. And so when we're thinking about a human-centered design workshop, the output and the artifact of that is what's called an experience and a journey map. That journey map, as I have pictured up here, includes key activities and actions that users are taking through a business process. It includes those specific pain points related to that process. You're then mapping emotions. And so all of this might be familiar if you've worked in any area of human-centered design. A lot of times we think about the quantitative, right, value and impact, but it's also important to be thinking about the emotional impact as well of AI solutions. And so that part of that experience and journey map also includes emotions. And then we're mapping AI opportunities very specifically to a set of actions. And I'll explain this further as we go along as to why we do that. We also do the same thing with ethical considerations. Those are mapped specifically to a set of actions, because one set of actions in a process might be lower risk ethically to use AI versus somewhere down the line where it's really high risk. And so being able to actually map that out early is really important, and to separate them as well. And then the final thing is thinking about systems used, right? So what are the actual systems that are used? Again, that goes back to that failure rate of integration, because we need to be thinking about the systems used early on in the process. So I'm going to go through a few of these. This is actually going to be after this point of explaining some of these, we're actually going to do a little bit more of hands-on because I'm a big believer of like not just spewing information. So this is going to be a bit more interaction where you guys are going to be talking. I'm going to be talking. We're going to be having a good time. So pain point discovery. It's useful for AI projects primarily because it ensures that the technology addresses real issues rather than hypothetical problems. So sometimes we do conduct thought experiments. They're really good. And sometimes we do work in the hypothetical. However, we need to make sure that we're framing it as such when we're working in that space. When it comes to AI solutions, when we're really thinking about developing features or products, we really need to be making sure that our solutions are grounded in real world problems. The challenge with hypothetical situations is that it actually leads to higher risk because we are unable to truly identify what ethical concerns because we don't have a real world situation. Couple ways we can do that is using user interviews or doing just observations and observing people in their process. UX mapping, which is kind of what I just went over, is really about mapping projects in a visual representation of the user experience. And what it does is it helps teams identify critical areas where AI can have the most impact. So it's what I see a lot of is people throwing out all types of ideas. And they're like, AI can solve this or AI can solve that. But they have no idea where that actually is going to fit in a process. And as humans, we like to define our processes, but they are not cut and dry for every organization, right? It really depends on the organization. It really depends on the problem within that organization of what that complete experience is. And therefore, mapping that out and really seeing where it is. The other thing that UX mapping does is later down the road, when we're thinking about change management, right? And how change management will impact the particular piece of technology we are putting in, we have a general idea of where it's going to impact. We can then put change management around that, better communication, because we're very specific on the area and the process it's going to change. And then we do AI solution mapping, which is, again, aligning the AI solution with specific pain points. And again, that's really about identifying ethical risk as well. And then finally, the ethical evaluation as part of this, considering early ethical implications as early as possible in the process. Going back to the journey map, I'm going to show this so many different times because I really think having visual representations of things are really important. Primarily, I know you both have probably been in meetings where everybody says a bunch of words, you leave the meeting, and nobody remembers what the words were or what the decisions were or any of that. And so having this visual representation really does help. Today, we won't do this part because it is quite a bit, as you can imagine, going through all of those key activities. But what we are going to do today is we're going to do 3 activities. One where we are discovering pain points. I have a specific topic in mind that we're going to use. We are going to map some AI solutions to those pain points. And then we are going to evaluate ethical considerations. So normally when I'm running these workshops with agencies, I am typically working with a scientist or a AI engineer so that there's diverse perspective in the room, that we're thinking about technical feasibility early on. And also it helps when we're thinking about mapping those AI solutions to the pain points. All right. So the topic that we're going to be doing today is pain point discovery around task management. And specifically when I mean task management, it really is on individual jobs or assignments. It's about breaking down work or projects into smaller, doable steps. It's deciding what needs to be done first, setting deadlines, keeping track of yours or your team's progress. So just setting the stage when we think about what we're going to move through the rest of the morning is, what is it? What are the pain points that you personally have around task management, whether it's for yourself, whether it's for teams that you lead, or whether it's within your organization. All right, so first activity is really like, we're going to do this, I think, as a group, which I think will be pretty easy. The first is like one-on-one interviews. So we're going to pair up. I'm going to put a timer on, and first 3 minutes will be like one person just kind of talking about pain points they have related to task management. And then the second, we'll flip it, and then another person will speak about like kind of problems that they have, and then we'll kind of discuss them as a group. You guys ready to be hands-on? You're good? Okay. All right. Let's go ahead and start then.
And if you, my name's Evil. I go by Evil because yeah, it's memorable. But my first name's Erica. Feel free to call me either.
Okay. Lana.
It's nice to meet
Nice to meet you.
Since we're in this group together.
Yeah.
Where do you work?
I work at a company called Cribble. It's data engine, it's software for data. So yeah. But I'm here because of school.
Oh, because of school. What
Well, not because of school, but that's how I got it. I go to the University of Arizona. I'm working on my doctorate, so I can be Dr.
Yeah.
Oh, funny.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's in organizational diversity, focusing on AI ethics and governance. So that's great.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah, I did have one question.
Yeah.
That pain point journey map, journey experience map. What software is that? Or did you just create that?
Yeah, I typically create them, but there are some templates in Miro
Okay.
actually that you can use.
Okay.
There are plethora of sites. If we connect on like on LinkedIn or whatever,
Yeah.
I'm always
Oh, great.
posting some resources, but
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, I was like, oh, this is.
But they
great.
don't include the AI part, and they don't
Yeah.
include the ethical part.
Ah.
So those are things that I'm bringing to the surface now that I
Nice.
think should be
It
included
should
in them.
be,
Yeah,
yeah.
100%.
All right, sorry.
No, that's okay. Good question. All right. So we're thinking about, who wants to start? We're thinking about like pain points related to,
Task management.
yeah. And it'll be helpful if we write them, I think, too.
I can start. I don't have many. And if I'm thinking more so in a team specific.
Hey.
I wasn't sure how this was all working.
I
I just took a break upstairs and I was like, well, I'm gonna come down to this.
Yeah,
one.
come down. So Just to catch you up, what we're doing right now is we're actually discussing pain points related to task management. So, sorry you missed the whole spiel beforehand, but
It's okay, I'll catch up.
we'll circle back. Corporate speak, sorry.
Yeah.
And really thinking about like what are some pain points related to task management? So you might have a pain point that tasks are tracked in so many different places, right? You might be working across multiple projects. That means you've got tasks that are tracked in over here on X team or over here, or if you're in a team and it's multiple teams, each team has their own way of tracking task management. It's not consistent. So that's kind of what we're working on now is like this part is more interactive of like, what are your pain points related to task management? All right. And
Okay.
soon to be Dr. Evil.
Yeah. I really don't have much. I know a lot of the pain points that I have on my teams, particularly when it comes to task management, is we're so busy that we don't actually fill in whatever the task management systems are. And so we'll start something, but it'll die because we're all kind of in our own silos and don't have time to like update whatever the boards are. And then kind of what she just mentioned, where there are so many different systems that you need to update that it's just like, I'd rather just not do it. Just like, I'm not gonna update this system because somebody over here is gonna be upset that I didn't update that one. And so it's just easier to just not do it, period. I'm already busy as it is, so,
Yeah,
yeah, so that's probably my contribution.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tell me your name again.
Lana,
Lana. Okay.
I'm from Loudoun County Government, DIT. We have that problem too. We have service now, but we have Kanban boards, we've got projects, we've got incidents, and we've got requests. And currently they are not tied together. So, and you can be on a project and then that you might be doing a task on there and that might initiate an incident, but they don't have a way to tie it together. So that's kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Another thing with task management, I'm also on another agile team and we're doing, some new, like some Power Platform applications, like Power Pages. And, it's new to our team, so we don't really know how to break them down or break them down. We don't really know what's involved, but we've never done it before. It's the first, agile team working on Power Platform. So, we don't know how long it's gonna take. We don't even know what's involved. We don't know who's gonna impact, but. So we just do the best we can, but that's a little bit of a struggle.
Yeah, that's a really key one, right? Because we think about tasks, but we don't think about like how do we even break down the task to begin with if it's a new project and unfamiliar. That makes a lot of sense. Was that it? Sorry, Lana. Yeah.
Okay, so my name is Leslie Whites. I work at the Meyer Corporation, so it's a little bit probably different in that we are working with government agencies. We do low kind of technical readiness level prototype type work. So we're not developing any production software. I actually do more kind of theoretical analysis. We do some data analysis. So we do try and practice in some cases agile development. We have probably too many different task tracking tools, and as an organization, they don't really say, oh, you can't use this or you can't use that. So the lack of standardization is a huge pain in the butt because it's really driven by kind of what the task leader likes.
Yeah.
That's what everybody uses. I think the other challenge is we have a lot of technical staff that are spread across a lot of different projects. So trying to get everybody to do things in concurrent timelines is really challenging. I hear your concern about people not filling out what they've done, so it gets really difficult to track. So I think we deal with a lot of that, and that we're really not developing products or software yet. We're trying to employ some of those techniques, and it probably just doesn't mold real well to our business model. So
Yeah, that makes sense too. So, task processes that don't fit.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I probably work across like 6 or 7 tasks over a year, for example. So like, I'd love to have something to quickly say, okay, what's the state of this project? But it's sometimes difficult. So it's very human heavy to go and get the state of things, and it would be nice to.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
I guess it's good to make us talk to each other.
Yeah,
Hi.
that's,
Hey.
hello, come on in. Sorry, we did get started because I wasn't sure who was coming.
Sure, again.
I know, I wondered that too. There's probably people just, I was like, where do I
Yeah.
go?
Yeah, when she was taking me, I was like, why do I need a guy? And then I was like, oh, I would have never.
And you can't get to the 5th floor if you want to.
No,
Oh,
no.
yeah, how do we get back?
There should be someone that, that's gonna help us. Yeah, I asked that question before
You're
I
now
came
on the
down.
horizontal floor.
Yeah.
We're trapped in here. Like it's too big thing now.
Yeah, okay. So I think just to let you know and you can add a couple, what we've been doing is going through thinking about pain point discovery as part, and sorry you missed the larger picture, but and figuring out when we think about task management, what are some of the challenges that we have around task management? And we're picking this specifically because it's just an easier broad. I knew there was going to be a broad group of people, and it's easy to think about. Some of the things that we discussed was really too busy to fill out an actual task management system. New projects, you don't really know what's involved or how long it's going to take or what the process is. So it's a little bit challenging to even figure out what tasks need to be done. Too many systems to update. Too many systems that are disparate as well. Like they don't really talk to each other. One group is putting tasks over here, another in here. And then also like processes and systems that don't actually fit the project, right? And so those are some of the things that we talked about. Did I capture it as well as possible? All right. So I may actually type these up on the slide so that we have them for the next part. And so when we think about like one of the parts in the activity or in a workshop you want to do, we have not a ton here, but a lot of times I like to synthesize and prioritize, right? Normally I'm working with a larger group of maybe 20 to 50 individuals from an agency, and they're all thinking about, they've got tons and tons of ideas. So may walk out with almost 200 stickies, believe it or not, of like different pain points. And so it's important to be able to synthesize that and then to prioritize it. And so if we think about prioritizing for the rest of this workshop, we've got 5 here that we can think about. We can either kind of focus on the fact that people are too busy to fill out the actual task. We can focus on too many systems to update. So kind of singling those down, or we can think about breaking down tasks that when you're at the start of a new project and what that would look like.
My apologies.
No worries at
I'm here to
all.
introduce your wonderful host.
I,
Do it for the next one.
yeah, for the next
He's a
one.
troublemaker. Stay away from this guy. I'm sorry, yeah, go ahead.
I get it. I understand. I'm here. I've introduced myself. We're halfway through.
There goes my crypto bonus. Oh, good.
Thank you. Thank you. And so we can focus on either task processes, like for breakdown of new projects, or we can focus on the filling in the actual tasks that we're too busy, or we can focus on consolidating the mini systems that we need to update. So by a show of hands, where should we go? Should we go to the too busy to fill out actual tasks? Okay, that's one. Should we go on like brand new task breakdown where it's a brand new project and you just need to break down the task? Okay, got one. Or should we think about how do we consolidate the systems? Okay, We've got 3. And I can tell you that priority might shift as we go through. So our priority is going to be too many systems that are disparate. And so what we're going to do in our next exercise, normally what we would do is, like I told you, you're going to see this journey map a lot throughout here. The next process in the workshop is normally now taking and getting really granular and thinking about the key actions and activities that happen at each of the different systems, right? Or each of the projects. So meaning that I want to say, me, Thelma, I go in to system A and I typically indicate and mark that a task is done. Or, and that's if I'm working with one team. If I'm working on another team, I go in and I indicate that they're using Kanban, let's say. I go into their maybe Teams board that they're using and I mark my task is done. That's me as an individual. But me as somebody who's overseeing projects, I go into Team A's Kanban and I'm trying to get a sense of where their stuff is. I go into Team B and they're in ADO and I'm trying to get a sense of where their tasks are at. So those are my actions and activities that I'm doing. And then I take that data, I then put it into a PowerPoint that I need to present to leadership on all the state of all the projects, right? And that's going to take me half a day, maybe a day to do all of that work, right? Time consuming, a lot of work. So that's as the individual and then as the leader. And we would be very clear about documenting the activities, the pain points, the emotions. And then next, what we're going to move on in this session is thinking about AI opportunities and then ethical considerations. So we're going to skip this part. It's my favorite part, so I hate to skip it. It's really the nitty gritty. And we're going to go into AI solution mapping. So because I know, and I don't want to make you guys think on the fly, not going to make you do that. We have, I printed out some AI solution ideas, right? So you're not starting from scratch. And what we want to do here is we are thinking about, again, the consolidation of task management systems. There's a bunch of solution ideas. We want to map which of these solutions is actually fitting for that consolidation. And I'm going to give you about maybe 2 minutes to really think through and look at the list, and then we'll start to discuss together. And then also feel free to come up with your own as well, if you don't see anything fitting on the list. Okay. Anyone want to start first with some just general ideas that you have? What are your thoughts?
I can
Yeah.
throw one out there.
Thanks.
First of all, I love all of these.
Right.
I forget about number one. Like,
Yeah.
I'm glad you wrote this down for me. I got backbone.
So, the one that I thought about that really, I think could help is AI that optimizes a need or identifies a need for a team touch point, like things are going off the rails, you guys need to meet.
Ooh, yeah.
And like the agenda for what that discussion should be, like. So that was one that I felt like, oh, this would make my life easier, in addition to all these other ones too.
So the problem is that we have all these desperate
Yeah.
systems, right? And so we want to figure out how to bring them all together.
Well,
What's the problem?
though, yeah, the problem is there's too many disparate systems to, that each team is tracking in their kind of own system and in their own way. And it's really about but is that really the problem? If the problem is truly, that's like a situation, as a leader, I need to understand why that's a problem is that I need to report out, right? That's one actual pain point of having disparate systems is I need to report out, and it takes me a long time to be able to report out. As an individual, I have too many places that I need to look to track my items. Does that make sense? So typically a pain point,
So tracking, and three
Yeah.
becomes if the problem is tracking, then three should,
Well,
three says tracking.
Well, I think that it depends on who you are. Are you the IC, the individual contributor, or are you a manager? Because the individual contributor, because I thought the same thing until you just said something, and then I was like, uh-oh. So I put three as well, but then as an individual contributor, if I had a chat bot asking me, like, what's my status? And if I can say, type in what my status is, and it goes and updates whatever system,
yeah,
that's fantastic. And so that's what I added a workflow to update appropriate systems.
yeah.
But then
that makes
as
sense.
a manager, you don't want to have to type something into a chat bot to get all of your direct reports information. So something else would probably be best, maybe a 5 to create a timeline based on their input to see if there's any cause for concern or something
Yeah.
like that. And that's just me thinking on the fly of that second one. But yeah, I think that the solution is not a single idea personally.
Yeah,
So I
no,
was-
when you're,
Oh,
go ahead.
sorry, I was,
Yeah.
I was thinking too, from the organizational perspective, especially as you're doing complex tasks with a lot of people. And, so often things run over budget and over schedule, like, is this an opportunity to try and address some of that? And, the management of complex tasks so often falls on the human.
Yeah.
And so now does it kind of like help get better awareness of how things are going and identify, here's the areas that need prioritized attention. That's how.
So,
Yeah.
so that's a different
Yeah,
problem.
a different.
Yeah, it is a
perspective.
different perspective and
Yeah.
a different problem. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's not the problem.
There's so
No.
many problems.
There's so
Right.
many problems.
And so that's why like in the beginning of my talk, I talked about a journey map. And that's why the importance of this journey map, because when you start to slice and do it by persona, by individual, you are going to start to see some of this, right? And if you don't resolve what's happening in this room right now, each of us would go away with our own idea of what the problem is, right? Undocumented, and we would go off trying to fix it I would maybe pick number 3, and you would pick number 3. You're picking number 8 that you wrote down yourself. And then, like, you know what I mean? And that's what happens. But when you have this journey map that actually lists the task and the specific pain point for those activities and tasks and the AI solution that fits that particular task, then you get a lot more clarity, right? And you walk away with an artifact. But yes, you're right. You're hearing different problems, right? And it really depends on the persona as well and what you're looking at.
I'm interested in answers.
Yeah.
Did you come up with something?
Not something new.
That's okay.
Okay. Well, I personally liked, number 5, right?
automatically generates a timeline, but something that I was thinking about is the community aspect of the work. Because it's not just about collaboration with groups of people that already agree to share data. There's a lot of community-based organizations that there's a political aspect to this, right? With AI and data and power, and they are not going to be willing to continue, they're not going to share the data. So how do you work with some of these systems that share data, and then some of these other community-based organizations that might not have the money for AI or choose not to share and be a part of these collaborative systems, but you need them to be at the table. So I don't know if there is a solution, an AI solution for that, because I don't come at it from a tech perspective, but I was just trying to think through, like, how do you bring other folks to the table that are not part of already a system that is disparate and is willing to come to the table.
Yeah. I think that makes a lot of sense. And I think that's why I like to start with human-centered workshops, so that it's not around addressing the technology first, it's around addressing people and where they're at, and thinking about, okay, what systems are being used, and that also helps you capture what systems will not be, right? Like for that nonprofit agency that doesn't want to disclose data, or be collaborative in the sense of, I want to share my data in this effort. I think
And
Melissa.
this is one of the more problem. It's not the technology issue.
Yeah.
Disparate systems with, if you were the dictator, you can reconcile through different software platforms that can fix that. The problems are human-centered, as maybe you're pounding here.
Yeah.
And so this is not an AI problem. It's not a tech problem. It's a human problem.
It's a human problem, yeah.
So we're gonna go to an AI solution to fix a human problem?
I think that when you come to the table with a workshop, right, you get to see what can actually fix the problem. And it might be an AI solution and it may not be. And I think it's really important to distinguish that. I've worked with, there was a data collection, was the last project I was on. Their issue was collecting information from people, right? That was not an AI problem. And we discovered that through the workshop early on, because they're like, we're going to do AI. And we're like, okay, let's go through this workshop. And they realized, like, it wasn't. Now, down the road, once they got the information, we identified later on in the process where AI solution would make sense. But not that earlier process wasn't an AI solution. So just coming to the table and having diverse perspectives in the room and identifying the main problem clearly help them and their leadership say, it's not AI. That's not going to solve right now. Or it can solve this problem, but first we need this. Yeah, that's a really good, and why I really push human-centered design workshops 100%. All right, so last part of this that we're going to go through is thinking about ethical concerns and questions we should be considering for each of these. So once again, so that we can, to expedite this short process, which normally this is like a 4-hour to 6-hour workshop. I am giving you some. And so these are some questions that I usually like to kind of start with and think about, general questions. And once again, thinking about what else isn't on here, right? And this is double-sided, so there's a lot. So if you pick number 3, maybe go to number 3 and think about, some sort of ethical, like if we think about how frequently does the bot check in and can this be adjusted? A lot of people don't think about that as an ethical, but if I'm getting spammed all the time and getting like constantly twice a day, when you get on your, if you're working at an agency and they're like every 5 minutes when it's time to update your Windows,
Yeah. Plugging in.
50, yeah,
Time.
like you're like, okay, I got it. Just tell me once and then do it. Something like that, yeah. So we'll take you 3 minutes to look through these and then think about which ones we want to discuss and add to that discussion. Okay. We'll give it one more minute and then once again, we'll discuss. Okay. So, hi. Hi. Come on in. That's okay. I,
You're not the.
you're not the first. Just to catch you up, we're at the tail end. But we are kind of looking at and discussing ethical. Mapped out a solution. Or mapped out a pain point, or mapped out a solution idea. And now we're thinking about ethical considerations. And so, who wants to start? Who wants to start discussion? What are your thoughts? Anyone?
I can start.
Okay.
So as you know, shows 3, the chatbot. And so I like these questions that are here because I just think about like Slack when it gives you too many like pings and stuff like that. And I'm one of those people that cannot stand a notification, like people that have like 10,000 unread emails drives me. But some other things to consider is like, does it allow multiple languages? Is it visually accommodating? And also oh, does it explain where that data came from? So if it's pulling data from all these different systems and saying, hey, this is where I think you are, is this correct or something like that? Like, is it explainable? Can I actually verify that by going to these different systems that this actually is true?
Yeah,
So-
transparency is
Yeah.
really key. Yeah. Anyone else? Anything that resonated with you? Like you're thinking about,
I think the smart to-do list, I mean, I love the idea because I feel like I spend copious amounts of time just managing my to-do list to not let things drop. So like having something do that for me, but thinking about the anxiety that could cause in terms of like productivity tracking and, you know, are people going to be very anxious about the company monitoring what they're doing?
yeah,
And then, yes, having the option to opt out, but then if you're doing a project and someone's opting out, how is that affecting the overall management of the project? So does it still work
yeah,
if only half the people are doing it? So those were some of the things I was thinking. And on also like the whole like data tracking Fitbit culture, like, am I gonna start becoming super competitive so that I
Yeah.
can like, you know, up my productivity and drive myself crazy? So I feel like, just like you're saying, the notifications are there, you know.
how you're
Is
doing.
that a concern, how this could go kind of the wrong way in terms of work-life balance?
Yeah. Okay. And we're thinking, anyone else? Broadly speaking,
And I thought about the adaptability, just because we all will tackle a task differently, or maybe start in a different place and start all around that. Or things in life just come up, right? And happen, so it might, you know, delay me getting to something, so, the computer wouldn't necessarily know about, so I thought about things like.
yeah, I think that that's key when we're thinking about our main, like, sort of thought of disparate systems tracking, right? And adaptability. You have all of these different ways that people are tracking their task, right? And making sure that the system is adaptable to the varying team needs as an IC, independent contributor, or as a leader, right? So that I think you raise a good point there. And then I also think you raise a good point on transparency, because as a leader, if you're reporting out on the state of your projects and you're just trusting the system, you're like, how do you verify that information that you're giving to your leadership is actually accurate and factual, especially if you're going to use it to make business driven decisions, right? Like, or data driven decisions. And you want to make sure you know where that data actually came from. And obviously transparency with how those metrics or where the team is at is key too. So anyone else, anything else that you thought like that particularly came up with?
So I kept underlying the limitations of what the AI can do. The
Yeah.
algorithm, the bot, and understanding what that is. You talk about it from a transparency standpoint. I think of it more from a sort of a, I want to say the system. What is its limitation? It's not able to do everything. It can't necessarily address team dynamic. I don't know. I mean, yeah, I'm not familiar enough with how AI addresses team dynamics. It seems so, hell, I don't know.
It's gonna vote someone off.
So
Once a week.
You said optimize. That was your term.
get rid of creative.
We've determined that these
Right.
three are inefficient in their tasks and therefore are no longer needed. Yeah, that is fair.
Although,
Yeah.
I mean, we've lived this. How many times have you received a notice that says, listen, we've got budget issues, so across the board, it's 10%, we're gonna cut 10%. It's ridiculous and random, yet in a large operation, there aren't a lot of other ways that we look at it. So has to be a play between what is it that needs to be done? What is it that the AI can do that other things that need to be done? And what is it that it cannot do?
Yeah.
So now all of a sudden you're getting into, but if systematically, the system before the AI can't reconcile these, go back to our problem, the disparate systems,
Mm-hmm.
um, how's the AI gonna do that? How's that? We have to identify what the solution might be, and then how the AI can support that.
Yes, this is,
Maybe that was what you had in that previous slide.
yeah, this is going back here.
Yeah, that's.
Yes, that is,
I missed that in the beginning. Did you
Yeah,
have this? Okay.
I did.
Okay.
Sorry. And I will go back,
Oh, it's okay.
because we'll have maybe 2 minutes and I'll just do a quick run. Okay.
Oh, it was? Yeah.
Ah.
It's an interesting recording.
All right.
We'll get back
Yeah.
back to that. Yeah, and so overall, going through this sort of exercise, because I think we're about at time, is human-centered design workshops can help clarify objectives so that we're ensuring that organizations are solving problems that align with business goals. So that's really what we want to get at. I talked earlier about reasons why AI projects fail. This is one of the main ones, is unclear objectives. Second one was integrating into processes. So this is where design tools like experience maps can help you find opportunities. To your point, what was your name? Tom. To your point, Tom, AI solution isn't for everything. And so we need to figure out what part of the process AI solution actually can help. And making sure we're integrating that into business processes. And then the last point, very important, we evaluate solutions. So assess solutions for ethical implications and effectiveness. And what I don't have on here is fitness test, which is where I mentioned earlier. Is this actually, does AI technology solve this particular pain point? Is really important as well. So that is my spiel for this morning. If you would like, you can connect with me on LinkedIn. I would love that. And hopefully you walked away with something today. But yeah, I really appreciate your time this morning and going through, like I said, the workshop is really, this is just like a sliver of it. It's super meant to go in depth so you understand where AI can potentially help, what are the ethical implications, and where it cannot as well is equally as important.
Quick question, when
Yeah.
you do this workshop, I'm assuming you do it with a team that is in the midst of doing AI development, and so you can actually talk about the specific pain points that that company has?
Yeah.
Okay.
So typically, we are doing the workshop. Like right now, we have one that is 2 projects that are just about to go to pilot. So we've gone from this session all the way here, all the way to where we're about to pilot. So I know that it works. It's,
Yeah,
yeah,
it makes sense. I like it.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing it.
absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you guys. Any questions? I'm sorry, I didn't even think you guys are good.